Alright people, Catfish Dave here. The regular viewers have seen my first two James River videos. Quite pretty good fish and pretty good size fish first trip. Second trip put out more numbers. Now this trip started out kind of rough. It was supposed to be a 7-hour drive. Now it was pouring the rain. I looked at the weather and I think I left out of here on a Sunday. And that rain went from here all the way to the Chesapeake Bay. I said, it's going to be raining the whole time. It's going to be a pretty miserable drive. And I said, well, you know, not a great day to fish, so I might as well spend that time driving to a good place to fish. So I left out of here in the rain Sunday morning. I made reservations at a place called the Rockahawk Campground. Got me a little villa there. Pretty nice little place for the price. I left out of here, I don't know, about 12 noon, and of course when it's raining, you're always going to have these wrecks. I get on the interstate, I'm on 81, about an hour away, and there's a wreck, big traffic jam. I sit in that probably about an hour, and then we take off again. As I'm going down the road, I realize it's raining and the temperature's sitting around 31 degrees. I'm like, I'm surprised it ain't snowing, you know, that cold. And as I would go up a hill or up a mountain, I'd watch the temperature drop a degree, 2 degrees. And I said, man, I'm surprised it ain't snowing or icing or something. Well, I kept running through this. It got close to dark. And it turned into snow. It turned into ice. I was pulling this trailer. Of course, the trailer don't have no brakes on it. And there was some hairy situations. Had to slow way down. Go up some pretty good mountains. Big flashing signs, you know, warning, ice warnings and stuff. It was a rough drive down. And once I finally got out of all the ice, you know, traveling speeds at 30, 40 mile an hour, all the way to the Chesapeake Bay, well, it turned back into rain and just made for a miserable long drive. So I got there, I made the first two videos. The first 2 days went fairly well. The third day, I decided I wanted to go farther down and explore some of the bigger waters down on the lower part of it. So I launched out on the Chickahominy River. Alright y'all, I'm on the lower Chickahominy River here. That's the James. We're on huge water. It's huge. I'm fishing blind here. I don't know the area. This thing is huge. And my Navionics is just useless. It shows me nothing. It shows me where is deeper water, but that deeper water could be 20 foot, it could be 60 foot, and it don't tell me the difference. It'll tell me when I'm in shallower water some, but it's not showing me all the good stuff. Ain't showing me squat. I'm on like a 20-foot flat here. Got a little bit of current. I'm just gonna wing it, man, since I don't live here. You know, my graph ain't showing me nothing to look for. We're just gonna set up right here, man. Roll the dice. Cut shad out on 2 and eel down the center. We have current, it's nothing incredible. Is this guy coming straight for me or what? He seen me and headed straight for me. Those waves will get me all miscombobulated here. I don't have a lot of current. This is eel from yesterday. It's in bad shape. Yeah, and then he went back to the right. So he seen me, shoots way over this way to take a look at me, and then he goes back towards the channel. He was just trying to disrupt what I'm doing here, I guess. Maybe he'd never seen a boat like this out here. I was told this thing by some people back home, this thing just had raging current. And I ain't found it yet. We're gonna throw some eel down the center. They seem to like that eel around here. We just ain't got nothing big on it. We'll try this little flat area. If nothing pans out, we'll hunt deeper water. That graph ain't gonna show me nothing. I might have should have stayed upriver. At least it's narrow enough. I could figure it out easy by riding around a little bit. This thing's huge. You'd have to ride this one section all day long to figure out what's under here, since my navionics is useless here. We've got baits in the water. Some guy told me the catfish are so thick here you can walk on them. We'll see about that. Well, something played with me early, and I'm getting a big spin around with my boat. It's like we've lost current. Yeah, this current is just, it don't know what it's doing here. Small bite on the eel. But I have zero current and the boat's starting to go the other way. Well, so far we ain't catching jack squat. It don't make sense. This river's already swinging back this way, and it ain't nowhere near for the tide to change. I wish it'd swing one way or the other and stay there. Current switched on me like 5 minutes after I got here. Now, I was pretty confused with all the tide stuff. I thought I got in a rhythm of it upriver towards the Richmond area. But what I didn't realize was that depending on where you were at, the time for that tide to rise or fall could be at a different time of day. On the upper end, it seemed like it was early afternoon before it had switched on me, going back to high tide, and that's what I expected when I went down here. Well, I'd rather have it go this way anyhow, now the sun's out of the camera. Alright, y'all, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what I'm doing here in these tidal waters. We got two things going for us. That's the fact there's water here, and there is catfish in the water. So I'm trying to catch this morning bite somewhere, somehow. And I spent half this morning trying to find a Hardee's biscuit. Well, I figured that fish was a lot smaller than that the way he was biting on it. And this might not even be a fish. It might be a stingray or something down here. Well, that is a blue catfish, and he's got mud all over him. pale colored fish. This water is actually 2 degrees colder down here than it was when I was fishing up towards Richmond. I find that odd, but hey, maybe the ocean's got something to do with that. That was on a gizzard shad head. First fish down here on this lower, bigger part of the James River area. And it's all experimental, people. I don't want to waste the morning bite riding all over the place looking for what my navionics don't show me. We know there's catfish here, and at this time of day they should be searching for bait, so I figure I got a better shot catching them by actually fishing than looking around, at least for this first part of the day. Alright y'all, I figured out what's going on with the currents. Now when I was up towards Richmond, this tide change has been happening about 1:30. Well, when I got down here this morning, we got here at the end of low tide at like 10:03. So it happens at a much different time here than what it does where I was up towards Richmond. Pretty weird how all this stuff works. You think it all rise at the same time, change at the same time? Obviously not. I don't know jack squat about tides other than the laundry detergent stuff. Looks like we're getting bit on that eel. I'll tell you what, that blue cat we caught, he barely played with that bait. He did not attack it aggressively. Very cold water. That's just the way they acting today. Alright y'all, this is on the eel, smaller fish. Yeah. All right, y'all. I've been using this eel for 3 days and have not caught a decent sized catfish on it. It gets a lot of bites, but I haven't seen a big fish hit it yet. Now the good thing about this eel is I'll be able to use this same piece the rest of the day. You hook it right through the skin and it ain't coming off there. So I only got a bait with eel one time. All right y'all, that wind's picking up and it's getting cold. That feels like a better fish. this current's ripping now. He felt bigger than what he was in all this current. Got mud on him. Gizzard shad head again. Hold still, brother. Hold still. Fish number 3. Woo! Look at all that. He couldn't find my bait and all that. Either way, we're putting a head on. That's what they're eating. Time for some hot hands. I put my hands down in that 44-degree water. This wintertime fishing's for the birds. You can't hear me because of the dag-blasted wind, but I've moved over, and there's kind of a point, and I'm using it as kind of a wing dam. If the current was going out, this would not be a good spot. But coming this way, it's a current break. I've still got current, but it's about half of what it was out there. And I'm in about 15 foot of water right here. I'm gonna try it. See if these fish move up on here as this current gets strong. All right, y'all. First fish in this spot on that eel. I can use I can use this same piece of eel the rest of the day because it ain't coming off there. Gonna curl the tail the wrong way, and that's okay. Well, I only got, I think, 4 fish that day, but I was just out there having a good time. Strange waters. I was happy to throw a cut bait out there and watch the rod go down. You know, it was just an interesting experience being in a new place like that. I wasn't that worried about the numbers of fish I caught. I was just having a good time. So I decided to go back the next day towards that same area. I needed some fresh bait, and I decided to throw a cast net and get some fresh gizzard shad. Y'all, this net's way too big to throw out of this little bitty boat. The only place I can throw it is right over the top of them rod holders. Try not to hit my camera, but trying to score some fresh bait out here on my final day on the James River. I just side scanned some stuff in here. I'm gonna ride around. Go down there. And a little bitty catfish tangling my net up. Look at the size of these things, man. Now, anyone that's ever caught small catfish in their cast nets, you know what I'm talking about. I had one net. I ended up having to cut the catfish out of it and just throwing the net away. They get tangled up in there, and you'll spend half a day trying to get them out of there without tearing your net up, and you sometimes still tear your net up. So I had these catfish in the net, spent quite a bit of time. That was a brand new net, $169 10-foot tape net. And so I spent quite a bit of time trying to get those catfish out of there without tearing that brand new net up. These catfish have these reverse spines on them. You ever get one in your net, you're in trouble. Not to mention they can poke you when you're trying to get them out of the net. Oh, there's another little catfish in there. Spend half my morning getting these catfish out of here. All I wanted was some fresh shad. These things will ruin a good net. They will ruin it. And if you ever get one of them fins in you, your day is ruined. I've done found out about that. Well, y'all, I'm out here. Looks like in the middle of the ocean. Been riding for miles trying to side scan a decent sized fish, and I can't do it out here where this whatever blah 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 river dumps into the James. There ain't squat out here, and it looks like I gotta go about another mile and a half just to get to the other side where the actual channel is. I ain't got that big a gas tank. I'm going back up here, and we're gonna sit beside this other river, man. I ain't seeing nothing. I went out into the main river for a while, and I was kind of in a hurry that day to get an early start, which I didn't because I spent all morning looking for a restaurant. But either way, when I was throwing my cast net, I didn't want all that muddy water and stuff dripping down in my coffee, so I set my coffee up in the front of the boat. Well, I got out there riding around, scanning the bottom and stuff, and finally I decided I wanted that coffee, and I got to looking around for it, and I found it tipped over, not a drop left in it in the front of the boat. Yeah, all the signs say to pack up and go back to Tennessee. Well, I still got my wits about me. I had that coffee in the front of the boat to throw my net because I didn't want to pour a bunch of this nasty muddy water in it, you know, back there. And I forgot about it, and I've been riding around out here, and I find it up in the front of the boat, tipped over. Now, I'm one of these guys that drinks a pot a day, and I hadn't even drank none yet because I figured I'd start sipping on it when I got out here, and there ain't a drop in there. Been riding around here in this part of the James River. It's shallow out here, man. This whole thing is shallow. The channel is that way, about a 4-hour boat ride. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't see nothing on that side scan. Nothing. And it's shallow, so if there's any big fish, they should pop up. After not seeing any fish out there in the main river, I decided to set back up there in the Chickahominy. And I couldn't fish because the weeds were so bad. They would just accumulate on your line and pick your line up high in the water column. It's going to be a while till these weeds simmer down. Can't even keep your baits on the bottom. Y'all, I can't even fish the suspended bait. It won't even stay on the bottom with these weeds. You can see the big bend in these rods. That's all the weeds on it. Gosh dang helicopters. Y'all, so far we're not even catfishing. I can't even keep my baits on the bottom because of all this right here. My boat's a mess with all this stuff. You can see that one on the right's already just bowed over. Well, now that we got that rod cleaned off, let's clean these other ones off again. Adam Cook, he's a guy down there, Nautical Pride Sport Fishing, and I was talking to him on the messenger. I told him, you know, how my morning had went, and he showed up later that day and brought me some coffee and some McDonald's. We've got the resident fish like that, or we used to, until people wiped them out.
Yeah.
Which one?
That far right one. He's going down. He's going down.
Yep. Yeah. He ain't no big one. It's hard to net a fish in the current. Yeah.
25, 30. I'm gonna have to roll. Apparently I got something going on in the house. I'll holler at you in a little bit.
All right, Adam. Thanks for that food and coffee.
Yeah, man.
All right, y'all. Woo! Now, before I left for this road trip, I went outside and I've got these lithium batteries, and they've got an app on them to check how much power you've got in those batteries. And I checked my batteries, and I've got two batteries, 100 amp running the trolling motor, and a 125 for a house battery. And when I checked the app, one of those trolling motor batteries only said 73%, the other one said 90%. And that struck me as really odd. I said, oh man, I hope this battery ain't going bad. I'm fixing to go to the James River. So I charged it up fully. I fished several days on it. I kept an eye on the charge, and it was going down the same level as the other one, so I quit worrying about it. But after I caught that one fish that day, all of a sudden I'm sitting there with my lines anchored out, and I see everything go slack and my lines start going behind the boat. I'm like, what's wrong? And I realized my trolling motor had quit working. At this point I pretty much quit videoing because my batteries was under the camera and all this gear I had up there, so I had to move my camera to the side. I started inspecting fuses, connections, and up on my trolling motor it's got a little test button, and it can show you how much charge you got there. And I pressed that test button, and there was no light coming on it at all. That was telling me, I'm not getting power to it at all. I've done checked my fuses, I've done checked my connections, so I flipped on that Ionic battery app, and it was only showing one of the trolling motor batteries. The other one didn't even pop up. And so that's when I realized I had a big problem. I ended up leaving out of there with no trolling motor. Pretty much lost that whole day of fishing other than that one fish. On the way home, everything started out okay till I got up in the mountains and it started snowing again. It started accumulating, and I went through the same thing coming back as when I went down there. It took me about 9 hours to come home. Now I'm driving down these bad roads. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I see something really big across the road, and it was a truck tire, basically one of those caps, standing up on its edge. I ended up running over that, busting the splash guard off the fender on that 2020 Explorer, and it done something to my trailer. It knocked one of the trailer lights off the mount, broke it off the mount, and I lost power. I had no tail lights on my trailer, so the last 3 hours I ended up riding home with no trailer lights on those slick roads with bad weather. People were beeping at me because I didn't have my lights on, all this kind of stuff. It was a pretty strange trip. It started out rough. Had some stuff go on there. The trip coming home was rough. I pretty much called it the Catfish trip from hell, but I actually fished it one more time. I was dissatisfied with how my last day had went, and after I checked out of the motel, I went up and bought a couple regular lead-acid interstate batteries, and I went out for one final attempt, and I caught my biggest fish of that trip on that afternoon before I came home. That'll be next video. The tides, it was a confusing thing. I had to figure out. I finally learned on my Lowrance Elite, there's a button that says info, and if I push that button, it would tell me exactly what the tide was where I was fishing, and I could see when it was going to change back the other way. So, that's something we don't use here, but I learned it, and if I ever go back down there, I'll be more prepared. I'll be more used to those tides and how they work, and hope to have a better trip. Either way, it was a learning experience. I enjoyed being down there and, seeing something different, seeing something new, and sharing that experience with y'all. This is a video. There was fish in the video. That makes it a fishing video. Stay tuned for the next one where I catch the biggest fish of the trip. This is Catfish Dave with another one, signing out.